We discussed an awful lot on the show last week after the football came back. The Black Lives Matters slogan written on the T-shirts of every single player, and the players all taking the knee. And I was wondering whether or not, if a player didn't want to wear that on his shirt and didn't want to take the knee, whether that would even be possible in the climate that is now created. Well, there was something of a backlash about that, and we did then see at above the Etihad Stadium earlier this week the Burnley clash with Man City. Someone chose to hire a plane and fly a banner out the back saying "White Lives Matter Burnley." Well, the man behind that, who admitted responsibility for that White Lives Matter stunt, Jake Heppel, has now been sacked. He was a 24-year-old engineer, a long-time Burnley supporter. He's now lost his job. His girlfriend has also been fired. We understand the Lancashire-based Paradigm Precision, his employer, said that this was in relation to, and his girlfriend as well, in relation to a post that had been made on social media at previous events, not necessarily relating to this banner. But of course, if it hadn't been for the White Lives Matter banner, this wouldn't have happened. Well, let's talk to Brendan O'Neill about this, editor of Spiked Online, who joins us. Good morning to you.
Hi, Julia.
Should this Burnley fan, and I haven't seen these posts, I don't know what he's posted, and I know there's been some pictures of him with Tommy Robinson and the like. Should he have been sacked for making that statement on that banner?
No. And I'm really worried about where this is all going. I think we have a situation now which is almost a McCarthyite situation where you can be sacked from your job for having the wrong opinion. Because you're right, whatever about his social media posts, the fact is that it was the White Lives Matter banner which really brought attention to him and which really caused controversy around him. And that was an expression of his political or personal opinion. We might not like that slogan. I don't like the whole idea of white identity. I think it's a load of nonsense. And I don't particularly like that slogan. But people have to have the right to express themselves freely without losing their jobs.
Also, I mean, again, I don't know the man. I've not spoken to the man. I don't have enough details on this. He may or may not have had very ulterior motives. That could be an innocent statement of someone sort of naively saying, we understand the context of the Black Lives Matter slogan. I agree with the slogan, if not the organisation behind that slogan. And in the context of police brutality in America, absolutely made sense. I wonder whether Black Lives Matter too might have perhaps been a less sort of a controversial statement for a lot of people. And people are replying, all lives matter. Well, yeah, but, if we're talking about a black man who's just been killed by the police, that doesn't feel relevant. So I understand people's pointing out that these, Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter are not moral or factual equivalents. I get the context of that. However, even if he is, and I don't know whether he is or not, but even if this man is a racist and he wanted to stir up racial hatred and he believes, even if he did believe in white supremacy or the like, and he thought the black lives didn't matter and neither of these things necessarily are controversial, in controversy to each other, even if he did have those views, it is not actually illegal in this country so far for someone to hold abhorrent views, is it? We don't yet have the thought police. You don't have to agree with every horrible view that someone holds for them not to lose their job or face criminal prosecution for it.
Absolutely right. I detest racism. We don't know for sure if this guy is racist, but I detest racism. I think it's repulsive. I think it's ignorant. I think it's stupid. But I also would defend people's right to hold racist views. That's the nature of freedom of thought and freedom of speech. We have to defend it, even for people who we find to be toe rags and who have views that we really dislike. But, the thing is about this White Lives Matter banner, I mean, to my mind, it was completely inevitable. Once you politicised football by introducing the Black Lives Matter slogan, which is an ideological slogan, not only does it say Black lives are important, everyone agrees with that, it also is an ideological movement with particular points of view on all sorts of issues, from capitalism to the nuclear family. When you introduce that kind of political slogan into football, there was inevitably going to be a reaction from other people saying, well, what about my political slogan? I think the big mistake here was politicising football in this way in the first place, and then inciting other people almost to come in and say, well, what about my identity? What about my views?
Well, yes, indeed. And I pointed out when this banner was, well, not banner, before the banner was thrown, when the Black Lives Matter and the knee taking was done, that this was all in breach of the FA's own rules. They're in black and white, for want of a better phrase, on their website, saying you cannot have any controversial slogans, any political slogans. And again, even though everybody should agree Black Lives Matter, that there is a controversy around that phrase because of the organisation that has the same name, and therefore it wasn't appropriate. And again, the freedom of expression for every player. There may have been a player who has no political views in this whatsoever, hasn't got a racist bone in his body, but does not want to wear a slogan on his shirt and does not want to take the knee. But he, unlike Dominic Raab, doesn't have the choice because he'd have been hounded out of the Premier League within about 4 minutes.
The pressure to conform for footballers and for everyone, in fact, to take the knee, to say the same things that this movement says, the pressure to conform is enormous. I think it's perfectly legitimate to say, listen, I'm an anti-racist, I detest racism, but I have an issue with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
I have an issue with the way in which it pushes an identitarian agenda, which can be quite divisive. But, the way I see it is that white identity today, I do think it's becoming a bit of a problem that more and more people are defining themselves simply as white or as white nationalists and so on. But that seems to me to be a perfectly predictable response to identity politics, because what identity politics says to us now is you are white. That's all that matters. You have white privilege, you have white fragility, you're a white man, you're a white woman. Everything about your life comes from the fact that you are white and you were born white. Of course, some people are going to respond to that by saying, okay, I'm white. That's my identity. That's who I am. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So I think the demonization of whiteness and the treatment of whiteness as some kind of moral disease is causing this reaction where people are saying, I'm going to stand up for whiteness. It's all so toxic.
But also how insulting it is. And again, I don't like phrases like the black community or even the Muslim community or anything like that, simply because there isn't a white community, there isn't a Christian community. I think of people as individuals, and people may want to have representation of some kind. Normally, these are self-appointed people. They don't necessarily represent all the views, and there'll be many people who are of black and ethnic minority heritage in this country who rather object to all being lumped in together and being told that they are victims. So white people are perpetrators, black people are victims, and that's just not the truth. We are all individuals, and there are people who have a disadvantage in life, an advantage in life, and one of those may be the pigmentation of their skin in different circumstances. But to make everything an issue of colour, I thought that was something that we left behind in the 1970s.
Exactly. And, the great slogan from Martin Luther King, of course, was that we should judge people by their character, not their colour.
And it'll never catch on, Brendan.
Right. That was what every decent, progressive, liberal person believed for a very long time. But somehow we've completely reversed on that progressive vision. And now we say you must judge people by their skin colour. People are privileged and white, or they're black and victimised. And we're shoving everyone back into the racial boxes that humankind spent so long trying to escape from. And that, I think, is the problem some people have with Black Lives Matter. They agree, of course they agree, that Black Lives matter as much as every other life. But they don't like this constant invitation to think racially, to behave racially, and to see people as different to you. That, I think, is a very regressive worldview.